Let's head over the phones and taking time out of what we know is a very busy day and a very busy schedule. Congressman Adam Kinzinger. Congressman, good morning to you.
My man.
How are you this morning?
What is going on?
Well, how was the deployment? You're like recently walking right back into the office, aren't you?
Yeah, I came back last night. It was, I love doing my job, and so when I say thankfully short, it's not because I didn't like the job. I say thankfully short because it seems like we're starting to get to relative peace in some of these cities, and I was flying. We do what we do, but we were, supporting the men and women on the ground, both of law enforcement and the Guard. I'll tell you what, though, I'm just going to jump right into this real quick. To see some of these politicians politicize the use of the Guard is one of the most disappointing and disgusting things I've seen in a while, because, you look at the city of Chicago, for instance. I think I'd overheard, and I was actually on duty, but I'd heard that the mayor of Chicago said something to the extent of the Guard isn't trained for this. And these people just simply don't understand that the men and women of the National Guard, both Air and Army, are well-trained to kill America's enemies, to fill sandbags, to take care of in things like pandemics. If you look at these testing sites, and yes, in some cases, to assist law enforcement if there's disorder on the street. These are your neighbors. These are people who, every day, basically at least 1 week in a month, but in many cases way more, go and serve the community, and to see them politicized is very sad.
And many of those units have seen extensive deployment overseas as well.
Well, so that's the thing a lot of people don't understand. And I get it sometimes when people are like, oh, you're just in the National Guard. And this isn't how it was in Vietnam. The Guard, is both federal military, and it also has a state mission. It's a really unique organization. I mean, the National Guard's the oldest military organization. It's the shot heard around the world came from the National Guard. And they carry, both the Army and the Air actually carried the brunt of the fighting in Iraq and Afghanistan. But then they come home after that, and we assist in really anything the community needs. And I'll tell you, these cities that have allowed the Guard to go out and to secure stores and to do things that will allow police to go out and be more dynamic in their policing, they're the cities that were secure first.
Yeah, the Guard deserves a pat on the back, not derision. And as you mentioned, so many of them are friends and neighbors and family members. And this pejorative weekend warrior term really needs to be looked at a little bit more closely, because if you're calling them that, you have no idea what they really do.
Well, that's true. And I'll tell you what, I would put, obviously I'm more familiar with the Air Guard because that's what I'm in. But if you look at fighters, for instance, in the fighter units, literally 9 times out of 10 that an Air National Guard fighter unit gets in a fight with a active duty Air Force fighter unit in a simulated fight, 9 times out of 10 the Air National Guard unit wins. Because what happens is a lot of these guys come off active duty, and they can either go fly for United or stay in the Air National Guard and fly for United and sharpen their skills. And so the average pilot, for instance, in the Air Guard is actually older and frankly a lot more experienced than your active duty. Same kind of thing happens in the Army side of the National Guard. And these are really solid men and women. And we're not going to send them on the streets, to thump heads. But when they can secure areas and you don't call them in and you'd rather see looting in your city, that's history ain't going to judge that well.
Give me your overall take on this one, because, I know you released a statement on social media about 11, 12 hours ago on this one. But for people who are tuning in this morning, wanted to hear what your thoughts are on what is currently happening in America with protests combined with rioting, with looting, what happened in Minnesota and all that. Give us your thought.
So what happened to George Floyd was disgusting. It was murder.
Yep.
And I want to see all these officers charged. And the good news is it looks like we're going to see those officers charged. And I think it shows that there is, not with policing, because police, are great men and women. They deserve all our support. But there are bad apples with it, just like there'd be bad apples in the military or anywhere else. And that has to be weeded out. We've got to do something better. But here's the bottom line. Everybody's going to look to the government, and there's going to be maybe some training or some certain things that we can do that we need to do in a bipartisan way and not use this as a political instrument in November. But this is an issue of the heart. Every man and woman is made in God's image if you believe in the Bible, and I do, right? Every person is an image bearer of the Creator. And for us to treat anybody differently, it is an issue of the heart. The government can do certain things, but every one of us has to look into our heart and say, where do we harbor darkness, and how can we overcome that darkness with the light? And it's a fight we have every day, and that super includes myself, by the way, to find out where do I harbor bad things that I have to overcome. The other thing is, though, you can have justice and you can have order, and you should have both simultaneously for everybody. I have zero tolerance for breaking a store window, for rioting, because that has nothing to do with grief, and it has everything to do with taking advantage of the situation. And so I have called for the use of the National Guard to restore order, and that's got to be done.
What is your take on overall leadership that we're seeing, from look at governors and go all the way up to the president?
I don't think, quite honestly, and it's going to make some people mad, I'm not seeing a lot of leadership anywhere right now. And, I think the president, he's right on the law and order discussion. We have to have law and order. But the way he talks about it inflames the situation. And I know it makes some people feel good because he's saying what we feel, right? But I think a president in a time like this needs to be saying what everybody feels. And it may not be, how you feel at the moment, but it's like everybody needs to bring the temperature down. But then when you look at the governor and you look at for instance, the city of Chicago, and you kind of go into this, we're going to give space to loot. We're not going to, we're going to allow the police to do their job, but we're not going to give them the National Guard. Or you look at New York, that is not leadership either. That is creating fear. That is taking a legitimate business owner and saying, you don't have the right to the pursuit of happiness because, there are people that want to take advantage of the situation and loot. But I will say, the president declaring Antifa a domestic terrorist organization, I'm not sure the legalities of that, but I 100% agree. What they do is akin to domestic terrorism.
Well, some of the things that we've seen, and obviously speaks of an organized effort when you're looking at streets and cities that aren't really tied into one another at all around the country, yet there are bins of bricks, blocks, and rocks that have somehow been distributed on the streets.
Well, I'll tell you, and some of it I can't get into for obvious reasons, but I'm well familiar with the tactics, techniques, and procedures of Antifa. They're not tough. These are you're really skinny, liberal kids that know how to create mayhem, but the second they're confronted with somebody, they shrink. But they're smart. They've been organized on the internet. They have scouts. They have leaders. They have, people that are agitating. If you learn the structure of how they work, and I think it takes forceful response, not violence, but forceful government kind of response. And by the way, all these cities that have implemented Guard, I said this at the beginning, have implemented the National Guard are generally peaceful right now because the National Guard works and it allows the police to go out and weed out the Antifa types within legitimate protests.
And you're seeing that a lot. You're actually seeing some people who are legitimately protesting and peacefully protesting turning on those who are showing up to create mayhem, throw rocks, blocks, and other projectiles.
Yeah, that's right. And, you see those popping up on the internet. And I think probably, so when there were riots, I guess, a few years ago or instability, nobody had known the tactics, techniques, and procedures of Antifa. Now they do. And so that's encouraging that we're starting to see that dynamic. But I also think it's important that going forward here, we have to look at this and understand we are all one nation, right? We may not all like each other when it comes to whether you're left, right, whatever, tall, short, whatever it ends up being. We may not all like each other. But social media today magnifies our differences, and we have to put that in context. Because, man, we're miserable. And I'll tell you, it's still really the best time to be alive in history, and we just feel more miserable than we did before there was even running water, I think.
Yep, and you go to social media, and, using myself as an example, there was a point yesterday, I just kind of tossed the phone across the table and went, that's enough. I feel as though I've been sitting here drinking poison. I've been drinking poison while I'm sitting here, and I'm starting to feel it. I need to be done.
I got to tell you, I have a personal secret Facebook. Probably some people know it, but it's just for me and my friends and family. and I occasionally get onto that. And I'm not kidding. I was on it for like 12 seconds the other day.
Yep.
And just like you, I felt anger welling up.
Mm-hmm.
I was getting angry. And I'm like, why? I'm not going to solve anything. I'm not going to argue with somebody here on Facebook and win them over.
Nope.
I'm not even going to feel better when I'm done doing it.
Nope, it never happens. All it does is add more gas onto the fire.
That's right.
All right.
That's right.
Where do we go from here? I know we're just about out of time. Where are we going from here? We're starting to see things calm down. Are we going to start to see cooler heads prevail?
I think so. I think the charging of the officers was good. George Floyd's brother's speech was good. It's all of us to try to figure out how we can do better. And so I think it's going to be peaceful from here. We just have to do better as a country.
Congressman, as always, we appreciate you taking time out of your busy day. Thanks a lot. We'll look forward to our next get-together.
Man.
Appreciate it.